We now understand that the industries that once created jobs and wealth were also polluting our environment. The way we lived and worked in the past is no longer sustainable if humanity and nature are to thrive. Across Staffordshire, people care passionately about the climate and ecological crises, and they're doing all they can to protect the world for future generations.
When I first heard of climate change on the news, when I heard it, I didn't think it was a big deal. I thought it was just like people not recycling and maybe people could recycle more. But then when I heard stories, and I actually realised how bad climate change was and people are dying because of it.
I'm from Pakistan.
Yeah.
My mum and dad used to live there, and there was floods nearly all the time. And they lost some family and they lost their house.
It makes me feel quite anxious. Quite anxious about everybody's future.
Kids in school, they learn about climate change and then kids are really aware of it, but parents, sometimes they're not as aware as we are, and we know way more about climate change and how we can stop it.
We've got to hunt animals less. We've got to stop polluting the ocean, stop polluting land with all of your littering. Get more people to be picking up trash.
You can help climate change be better if you reuse, recycle and reduce.
Please stop climate change because it will kill every animal. We will starve to death and die.
We care about climate change. Do something.
The construction of new buildings causes a significant share of damaging carbon emissions. Reusing and retrofitting old buildings is one sustainable way forward. In Burslem, the beautiful old town hall and art school buildings had lain unused for many years. But now these heritage sites have been redeveloped and transformed into places for sixth form students to learn in. The City Learning Trust, in partnership with Stoke-on-Trent City Council, is responsible for this transformation and is making environmental sustainability integral to their business model.
We're developing decarbonisation plans for all of our estate so that we can make a difference and we can reduce carbon and our carbon footprint. As a trust, we're very focused on how we could really use those buildings, reuse those buildings, not just for our trust but for the entire community, with a real focus on regeneration to really develop our business of education with sustainability at the heart of it.
All over Staffordshire, businesses are putting sustainability and climate awareness at the heart of the work they do. Trent and Dove Housing Association is one of them. Today, as part of Big Green Week, they are working with tenants on a community clean-up day in Uttoxeter.
We were trying to get some residents to get rid of some items from their garden, old garden waste, old furniture, and in reward for them doing that, we're able to give them back some flowers and plants and bulbs so they can make use of their own gardens.
We've got tulips, some bulbs that people can plant, or we've got mixed daffodils, garden seed. People see things on television and may see earthquakes and floods and see, well, it doesn't happen around here. But we still have things that do impact people in our area. Planting some wild seeds in your garden to attract a butterfly will then attract another butterfly into your garden. It just has a knock-on effect for the environment.
We live in such a throwaway world. We've got the issue, with the plastic and the emissions and things. I do think there's a lot of people out there that try and do their bit as much as they can, but obviously us as an association, we try and do everything that we can to try and commit to that. My motto is that, alone we try, together we achieve, and I think that the more that we put this message across, the better it's going to be for everyone, including the environment.
Using renewable energy, like wind and solar power, stops the creation of greenhouse gases that contribute to global warming. In Cannock, a local community investment scheme called Chase Community Solar has teamed up with the local council and Beat the Cold, a fuel poverty charity. They've given out free solar panels to hundreds of council tenants in the borough.
Yeah, the solar panels are on the roof, as you can see. I'm delighted with them. I'm quite surprised at how efficient they are. I'm getting cheaper bills and that keeps me smiling.
With solar panels, the sun generates the electric and then the client can use the electric free of charge.
Charge up the solar battery.
This is a brilliant project helping both the tenants and the environment by using renewable energy.
It's made me think a lot. I'm quite conscious about what I'm using chemically wise that goes down the drain. I think about recycling all the time. I recycle everything I can. I worry about my grandchildren, what the future's going to hold for them. I've seen programmes with David Attenborough and what's happening to the polar bears in the Arctic, and it scares me. It really does. Our generation won't see that get worse, fortunately, but my children and grandchildren will. And animals will become extinct because they're losing their environment, and it's all to do with how the planet's being used. It's just wrong. So if we can nip it in the bud now and do everything we can, it's all going to collectively help in the end.
Let's stop all pollution. Let's start a revolution. We need to find a solution. Let's stop all pollution. Let's start a revolution. We need to find a
Working close to the land means farmers are often the first to notice the effects of climate change in our natural world. Today, many of Staffordshire's farmers are gathered at the annual county show.
We have to have a very, very big change in mindset of how we approach our lives, what resources we consume for everyday life. Think about your clothing. That wool there, he'll produce a crop this year, next year, the year after. We need a healthy sheep industry producing wool, which is absolutely phenomenal, rather than the synthetics, which would take up synthetic products, hydrocarbons out of the ground, creating pollution. Get back to using native products, natural products. I think we need government to say, hang on, we've got to be brave. Never mind the election in 5 years' time where we want to get back in power. Let's think about 50 years' time when our grandchildren are walking about. They need a healthy planet.
And I don't even know how many parents have got to say they can't have
I'm still classed as quite a young farmer, actually a next generation farmer. But I can definitely see in my short career that the climate is changing. So as farmers, our industry is all about working with nature. And I also think that we're the first line of defence against climate change as well. So we can help to adapt to change our farming practices and mitigate against climate change. That might be storing carbon within our soils, growing trees, but also producing renewable energy crops and renewable energy on our farms. It's all about for us working with nature, not against nature.
We're in the field today making hay on traditional wildflower meadows to enhance the biodiversity on this site as part of the management of Loynton Moss Reserve, which is part of Staffordshire Wildlife Trust. We're making hay in the summer, grazing on the aftermath and feeding the hay back to the livestock in the winter. This is a traditional production method which we feel is sustainable. Here's a handful of it. Oh, beautiful grass in that. Look at that. Could almost eat that. And obviously, all this diversity of flowers in the grass is brilliant for insects and invertebrates and birds as well. So it's a perfect ecosystem. If there was one thing I could say to you as a consumer and as a resident in Staffordshire is support where you can local Staffordshire produce. Always think about the origin of what you're buying. Think about the food miles of the produce you're buying, and is cheapest always the best? In my view, it's the most sustainable way forward, and that's what creates the biodiversity that we see around us. And that's what's also going to be a solution to tackling climate change.
Individual action is part of the solution. Staffordshire gardeners are also helping to create sustainable ecosystems.
There's some kind of bee. I think it's a red-tailed bumblebee. To create this wildflower meadow, all you have to do is, if you've got a lawn, is you stop mowing it. What could be easier than that? Whether it's growing your own vegetables, making your own compost, putting that back in the soil, whether it's maintaining a wildflower meadow, all of these things are very easy to do. Producing your own food, enhancing the wildlife in your area, and helping to get carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and back in the ground where it belongs. All of those simple actions are all going to improve the environment. There's another bumblebee.
It's the final day of Utoxeter's Big Green Week. Families have gathered in the park to picnic together and raise awareness for the need for urgent action to solve our climate and ecological crises. Kate Copeland, the organiser of today's event, is hoping their voices are being heard.
I would like to think people in government understand the community's desire to sort of fight climate change, particularly at a grassroots level. I think it's where the power of change will come from. We can only solve the big issues if we do it collectively.
Let's stop all pollution. Let's start a revolution.
We really need to make sure that whatever we leave behind us is a future that's worth living in.
Let's stop all pollution. Let's start a revolution. We need to
There is like a part in the song, and it says there's no planet B, so and we all live on the same Earth, which basically means that there's only one Earth, and we should protect it with what we have, and that we should share it and take care of it.
And try and help the planet so that everyone else and like the next generation get a better planet to live in.
Please, people with the power, do something. This will affect our future.
We all need to protect the earth, recognize what it's worth. Let's support our generation, make a change across the nation. Let it spreading across the land, microplastics within the sun. We all have the responsibility. There is no planet B.
Thank you for listening.